When working with any of my Rivolis, because they do have this protective backing in the back, one thing I like to do is I like to put some clear nail polish on the back, and that will just, you don't have to, but it does help to protect the foil backing. So, pretty simple. I just very gently, and just a light coating, and just remember this is just for safety protection. It's not required. Just gentle coat. Now we're going to bezel a 12mm Rivoli. It's going to actually be exactly the same way that we did the 14mm. The major difference is the number of beads we start off with. So here with the 12mm, I'm using a total of 30 Delicas, and just like my 14mm, I got all my Delicas set out in advance just to avoid human error. So again, I have in this case I have 3 rows, and each row has 10, and they're grouped in pairs of 2. So I have 5 groups in each row, so it makes it easier to avoid potential miscounting. And so I have my thread, my needle threaded, and my stop bead put on. I usually just do an arm length, and then I put my stop bead about, so that my tail is about, I don't know, 6 to 8 inches long, just so that when we do the back side of the Rivoli, we can just switch to the other thread. And I did put a stop bead on there as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so what we're going to do, just like with our 14mm, we're just going to be picking up, in this case 30, and I'll just double count, so that's 4, 6, 10. Two, 4, whoops, 6, 8, and this will be the last, so that would be a total of 20 that I now have on my thread and needle. It's such a pretty color. And by the way, that Rivoli is fuchsia. Yeah, I decided it'd be a nice Valentine's color and spring color. Just pops. And it is Swarovski's, and I do have my clear nail polish already on the Rivoli. Just an added protection bonus. And we're just going to go through that last Delica again, which will create our circle. Our little circle, we can go ahead and put on start doing our first peyote stitch. A refresher from when we did the 14mm. Let me see if I can get in a little closer. Alright, so there we go. Our thread is coming out of this seed bead right here. We picked up a seed bead, so it's going to lie right next to this seed bead. We're skipping that seed bead and going through here. And so we'll pick up and skip a seed bead each time, and the seed bead we pick up will actually lie on top of the seed bead. And what the peyote stitch does is it creates a little knot for the next round. It comes in handy. It's just that first round that can be a little difficult, and that's why we have our stop bead. There we go. There. So now we got our first one on, and alright. So I picked up another seed bead. I'm skipping this seed bead, Delica, and I'm going to go through this Delica right here. right, so my thread is coming out from here, skipping this one and going through that one. And when I pick up it, the Delica, it will lie on top of this one. And again, and I should have maybe brought something with me, but you can also use your ring mandrel, a pen, something to set things on top to make it a little easier. Oh, here it's starting to come now, as you can see. There we go. Yeah, once you get the first few on, it does get a little easier as you go along. It just needs something to kind of hold itself in place. Coming from here, skipping this one. Next Delica will lie on top of the one I'm skipping, going through here. There we go. As you can see, it's starting to come along. And again, you're just going to go through, skip the Delica, the following Delica after your thread, have the beads lie right next to it, and then go through the other and go all the way around. When you get close to the end, I will meet you back here and I'll show you how to step up. And when we step up, we're going to be using our 15-0s. Alright, so we just have one Delica left before we step up. So I'm coming out of this thread, this Delica right here, picking up a Delica, lying it on top of the one I'm skipping, going through here, and then after that, to step up, I'm just going to thread through this first Delica that we added on to the last round. So here we go. I realize one of the reasons why this is feeling so awkward for me is that I tend to throw, when I needle, I do my stuff, I tend to pick up and have the thread come towards me, but with the camera I can't do that, so I have to go in the opposite direction than I'm used to. But like I said, practice makes perfect. Alright, so I'm coming through here. I'm going to go through that first Delica that we added for this round. And now I'm ready for stepping up. So go ahead and switch over to your 15-0s. And you could technically, like I said, use round or Delicas. I'll be using round. Alright, so this will be so much easier than before, because all we're going to do is we're going to, same as before, we'll be skipping every other bead, but the bead we're skipping is the little notch. So we'll just go, have our thread coming out, the bead sticking out, pick up a bead, go through the next bead sticking out, and then all of our beads will sit in those little notches. And the reason why we've moved down to the 15 is that you want your bezel to kind of close around the stone. So we're just making the circumference a little smaller by adding the 15-0s. So let's go ahead and get started. And this is going to be so much easier than when we first started off with the peyote. Get my thread out of the way so I don't screw up, because I do that a lot. Keep my, there we go. Whoops. Here's the first one. And then as I'm holding it, I'm just trying to get it into keeping the round shape. And you know, sometimes by putting, when you're first doing it, putting it on your ring mandrel or pen or something, it helps too. You know, so don't feel, you know, sometimes I can do it without, sometimes I have to use a tool to make it work. just depends. Depends on how tired I am. Because I usually do a lot of beading after work, and just because it relaxes me. There we go. Oops, caught my own thumb. There we go. And things just pop in. And you want it to be sitting in the center of the notch. Keep in mind the 15-0s, sorry about that, are a little smaller than the 11-0s, so that's just we'll be pulling things closer. Can't see what I'm doing on the camera. I gotta look down. There we go. I'm just not used to looking on the camera. Like I said, I'll get better. I'm looking at different stands that will make my life easier. There we go. So do that all the way around, and I will show you how to step up. And it basically is the same thing. You're going to be going through that last bead you started off with. But again, I will show you. Just make your way around, and I'll meet you back here. Alright, so we're going to put on our last bead here. Move my tail out of the way. Not so tight so it changes the shape. There we go. Add my last seed bead. So what I'm going to do is add my last seed bead, go through the Delica like before, and then to step up, I'm just going to go through that first 15-0 that I put on for our current round. So I'm going to go through. There we go. 11-0. Now I'm going to go through the 15-0 that we went through, the first 15-0, like that. And just like our last round, we're going to go ahead and be putting on a new 15-0. It's going to sit on top of the Delica, the notch, and then we'll go through the 15-0s all the way around that are sticking out, so that our 15-0s that we're putting on will be sitting on the Delica. So I'll do a couple. Here we go. And this is where you want to make sure they sit properly on the, there we go. I usually like to use my fingers to kind of make sure things go into proper place. There we go. There. And you guys will be able to see what you're doing a little bit better than me. So that will make a huge difference. There we go. All right. There we go. So I'll meet you back here to finish this off this side. Now we're going to only be doing 2. If you want, you could do 3 of the 15-0 rounds. This is our second round of 15-0, so if you want, you can go ahead and do a third one if you want. It's the same principle, but I'm just going to be ending at 2, seeing how things feel, and start working on the back. If I want to, I usually save the third for the front and back after I get 2 sides of the front and 2 sides of the back done and see how it fits and feels it, whether or not if it's secure or not. Usually I don't have to do more than that, but it's a preference. Alright, so we just have the last 15-0 to put on the front. There we go. I'm just going to pick up 15-0, go through my 15-0, on the other side. There we go. Move the thread out of the way so I don't screw it up. There we go. Now, even if I don't put on another, I do step up like I would normally. And that for 2 reasons. One, I think it helps strengthen and connects the full round. I always like to go through, when I'm doing circles or rounds, is to go through that last C bead that I started off with. It just kind of pulls things together properly. Also, if I turn around and decide later on that I do want to add a 3rd round of 15-0s, I'm already ready at the spot where I want to start off with. Now, you can do the next step in 1 or 2 different ways. I'm going to take my needle off my thread and put it on the other, on my tail end, and we're going to do the back. Now, you could leave your needle on your thread here and just put on another needle. It's up to you. Alright, so I got my tail threaded and needle threaded. Now the first step to do is to get to the correct place. So right now I'm coming through this Delica right here, and I want to go through and come out of one of these Delicas. So I'm just going to step up, just like we did on the other side. There we go. And now we're ready to add our 15-0s. And if you want, you could, I like to, before I start putting on my backing, even though usually it takes the 2nd round for it to stay, is I do like to put my stone in advance. And I just hold it in place with my finger. It will slide a little bit. It's a little easier with these smaller ones. But yeah, now we just pick up our 15-0s. Just like we did on the front side. Skip the Delica that's down and go through the one that's sticking out, so that your 15-0 sits on the notch. There we go. And I just like to make sure it's in place. And you just do that all the way around, just like we did the front. So I will meet you back here to do the step up. But basically, if you got it, you're just going to do the same thing like we did on the front. Meet you back here. Alright, so we just have our last 15-0, and then we'll be stepping up. Just making sure my threads stay on my way. There we go. And to step up, you want to go through that first CP. You can do it at the same time if you want. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Alright, and just like the front, we're just going to go ahead, have our CB sit on that Delica, and we're just going to thread through the sticking outs. So I'll meet you back here, and about at one point you'll get to a point where you don't actually have to hold the stone in any further. In fact, mine's getting pretty close to that already. So you'll be able to tell, and then meet me back here and we'll finish off this second row of 15-0s. Alright, so we have our last C bead for the second row. And what we're going to do is just go through here, and if we were going to step up, which we aren't, but we're still going to go through this 15-0 right over here, as if we are. And if you want, you can go ahead and put on that third row. Mine's already starting to feel snug, so once I reinforce everything, it's just going to be that much more snug to begin with. So I think I'm okay. There we go. It's just a preference. There we go. And since I have more thread on my front than my back, what I'm going to do is when I do my reinforcement, I'm going to start off by reinforcing the spine. Then if I still have enough thread, which probably will, I will reinforce the front. And then I will switch to the back and reinforce the back. So I'll meet you back here to start reinforcing. I have my own little method. If you have your own, you know, feel free to go ahead and do that. But I'll show you how I like to do it. See you back here in a minute. What I like to do, there we go. So I like, where's my center? There's my center. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to go up one side of the spine. There we go. So I'm just going to go up here. Okay. And then I'm going to go down here, right to the Delica right next to it. And I actually went through I don't want to go through that center spine, so I want to back out a little bit. There we go. So I'm just going to go down there. And then back up that one. And it creates kind of like a circle, and it pulls everything in. And it just, whoops, I apologize. Technical difficulties. It just pulls everything together and holds it tight. And then I'll just repeat that. So let me just finish up what I'm doing here. And let me just back up so you guys can see what I'm doing. All right, so now I'll go up the center spine. And then I'll go up the two beads that are sitting next to each other, one of them. And then that pair, I'll go down the other side. Oops. Just can't see what I'm doing with the camera on my face. And then back up that other pair that went up earlier. And the thread just goes right in. And it pulls things together. So go ahead and reinforce. And I go all the way around. And then meet me back here. And then if you still have enough thread, we'll reinforce the front. And then once we're done with that, we'll just take off our needle and thread, either cut off our thread or burn it off, and do the back. All right, so I'll meet me back here once you've gone all the way around. Alright, so once I reinforced all the way around, I made my way to the 15-0s. So I'm coming out of this 15-0 right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here, up this 11-0, down again, down this one, and then down this one, up this 11-0, and then down. So just like you did with the spine, just treat these two as a pair, and this is as a center, and that's how I'm going to reinforce. So I'm going to go down, You don't have to do this. The spine is the most important thing because it does get a lot of stress. Because think about it, that's the section that you are putting the most potential stress on. And that's because that's where you're going to have your connection pieces. Either be an earring, a bracelet, or a necklace. That is where you're going to have your stress on the bezel. There we go. There we go. Let me see if we can. And then I'll just go up here. And then down here. And just do that all the way around. And once you're done, because you are switching directions back and forth, you don't have to put any knots in. Go ahead, I would do a couple of extra, maybe move back to the spine and burn off your thread, and then do the back side the same way. All right, I'll meet you back here later. Alright, so go ahead and thread your needle with a 6-pound fighter line or wildfire. I am using smoke. I do recommend, if you're doing dark colors, to use black satin. I'm just simply out. And if you're doing light colors, go ahead and use crystal. Put on a stop bead and leave about 4 to 6 inches tail. And we will get started with this with adding our first 3 units of right angle weave on our first side. So let's go ahead and pick up 4 round 11/0 seed beads. There we go. So we have 4. There we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and slide those down to the end. And then, since this is my first unit, I'm going to go ahead and reinforce that. So I'm going to go through all 4 seed beads again. And then for my first unit, I'm going to go through that first seed bead, and that will be for a 3rd time since I reinforced it. If you're not forcing it, just go through it 2 times. There we go. And there's our first unit. Now what we're going to do, instead of having our seed bead completely to the opposite, we are going to go ahead and go through that second unit. And the reason why is I do want to do my units going in this direction here. It's a matter of preference. You don't have to do that. It's just something I recommend. So we're going to go ahead and go through the second bead, so that way we're coming out of that bead that I want to go in the correct direction of the line. Alright, and keep in mind, things might get a little wonky as you go along. However, reinforcing that first unit does help, and as we get all the units on, it will all come together. So just hold things into place and don't worry if it looks a little wonky. Now we're going to pick up 3 more round seed beads, because our unit already has 1. So we're going to go ahead, put our needle in, so that way when it's coming out in the same direction as the thread. go. And I'm not going to worry about reinforcing that unit simply because it will get reinforced later. And a couple of reasons why I did the first unit: it helps stabilizes it as you start off, as well as it just gives it a little bit more form. It makes it a little easier to work with. Alright, now we're going to put on our second unit, and we want to go in this direction this way. So I want to get to this seed bead right here. So I'm going to go ahead and go through this bead, then go through this bead. So that way I'm coming out of the bead I want. So let's go ahead, go through that first seed bead to get to where we want. And you may have to, just gently tug. My major issue that I'm working on is sometimes my tension's a little too tight. So I need to practice that and work on that. There we go. So we're through this seed bead. Now we still need to get through this seed bead. And just take your time. And it seems like it's tedious to go through one seed bead, but really it pays off and it helps you keep your beads laying correctly. And I just hold my beads in place as I'm just pulling, gently tugging on that thread. Alright, so we're in the correct direction. Now we want to add our third right angle weave. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to pick up 3 seed beads, put our needle through the opposite, our needle so that it's going the same direction as the thread, and then just gently pull. And if you just kind of hold your thumb gently, things will fall into place. Whoops, as I speak that something tugged. There we go, I had a little kink. And just listen to your thread, or feel your thread, It will let you know if something's wrong. And if you catch it before it becomes an issue, it's so much easier. Alright, so we got our third unit on. What we're going to do next is we are going to reinforce this unit. Then we are going to move on down to here so we can put on our first Tila bead unit. So let's go ahead, reinforce our unit just because it's the last unit for this side. Whoops, let me go ahead, roll that. And again, things will fall back into place, so don't panic if things come out undone a little bit. And again, just be very gentle as you move along and have fun and relax. There we go. And again, I'm just going through one bead at a time just to help protect that, make sure the beads stay laying in the way I want them to lay. You can, but things do tend to bunch up otherwise. Alright, as you can see, it's a little out of order, but we'll get back in order here in just a moment. So I'm just reinforcing. And thanks for being patient. I'm not used to doing this on camera, and so I feel fairly awkward. So bear with me. I do appreciate it. Alright, as you can see, things are a little out of awkward, but now they'll come back into shape. Just holding the beads in place as I pull my thread. And I think I may have mentioned how long you want your thread. You want your thread to be on when you put it on your needle, you want a whole wingspan, I would say. But work with whatever you're comfortable with. Don't make it too long because we are going to be adding thread throughout this project. Alright. So we're now down in between our first and second unit. You just pull this. And this is why you need the flat nose pliers. There we go. And voila. So we have our first 3 units on. So we got, let's just go over what we have here. We have our first, there we go. Whoops, let me just fix this a little bit. There we go. And things will fall into place. Don't worry if they're a little wonky at the moment. There we go. And so we have our first unit, our second unit, and our third unit. We went back down to between our first and second unit, and now we're going to do is put on our first unit of Tila beads. So let's go ahead and get those out. Alright, so we are going to put on our first unit of Tila beads. So we are coming up, we're in between the first and second unit of our first right angle weave unit. We will pick up 1 11/0 Delica and go through our first hole of our Tila bead. Slide that down. There we go. Ah, it feels awkward doing it on the camera. Alright, so then we pick up 1 more 11/0 Delica. And I suppose you could have just done the 11/0 Delica and the Tila bead, but I was being silly. Alright, so now we got our first 11/0 Delica. Now what we're going to do is we are going to build 3 right angle weave units on the other side, just like we did the first. Alright, so let's go ahead and do our second unit of right angle weave. So let's bring back our 11/0 rounds. We're going to pick up 4 11/0 round beads, just like we did the other side. Slide those down. And just like the other side, we're going to go ahead and reinforce those 11/0 rounds, our first unit. So go ahead and go through all 4 beads again. Again, this is optional, but it does help with creating that form to start off with. There we go. And then, if you are reinforcing, go through that first 11/0 round a 3rd time, and if you're not reinforcing, it would be the 2nd time. So go ahead and do that, and just be very gentle. And things will come into place. And you may have to manipulate and pull on the thread here and there and loosen it, so that way it's up against that Delica and things are fitting nicely. You don't want things too tight, but you do want things to fit nicely together. Alright, now we have our first unit. Now we just have to put on our next 2 units. So we're going to go ahead and pick up 3 more 11/0 seed beads, and we're coming out of the correct hole, so we can go ahead and just go through that first unit. There we go. Now we're not coming out of the correct hole. We want to be coming out of this hole up here, this bead. So we're going to work our way up 1 bead at a time. There we go. You just have to think of which direction you want to go and what bead you want to come out of. And that's all you have to figure out when figuring this out. Alright. And things are a little wonky, but they will come into place. There we go. So now we just need to put on our next unit. So let's go ahead and grab 3 more 11 seed beads. And just remember to go ahead and put your needle through the hole, so that way the needle and thread are going in the same direction. There we go. I like to put my needle down and just use my fingers to gently pull that thread. And now we got our 3rd unit. Let's go ahead and reinforce that unit. It just helps stabilizes as you go along. So we're going to go ahead and go through each, and just, you know, you don't want to just keep pulling if you get a knot or something. You want to prevent a knot from happening. So just be gentle. There we go. Get the kink out of the way. I find that if you just kind of smooth the thread over with your fingers afterwards, it helps prevent another issue arising and you get the kink out before it becomes an issue. So we're just going through, sorry for being off camera, but I'm just going through each seed bead again until I get to right here. And that way I'm facing in the correct direction. So just to show you where I'm winding up. Whoops. This is a lot harder to do on screen. There we go, just to show you. So I'm in the 2nd unit, between the 2nd and 3rd unit. I'm facing towards where the Tila bead is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a Delica, go through the 2nd hole, pick up a Delica, and then on the other side, go through the right angle weave between the 2nd and 3rd unit. So let's go ahead. And things are just a little out of whack at first, because this is our 1st unit. There we go. Let's go ahead, pick up our Delica, go through the 2nd hole, come through that 2nd hole. Don't go into the other unit yet, because we got to put on another Delica first. There we go. Just do a gentle tug, and see, it's starting to come together. As we get a couple more units on, it really will start fitting together. Go ahead, pick up another Delica, and then go through the seed bead hole that is between the 2nd and 3rd unit. You're going to see how this will just bring it together. There. See? So we got our 1st unit on, and that's really the toughest part, is just getting started. Anyone who's done any of this before realizes that. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 2 more onto this side. Go back down to here. So between our last unit from the 1st Tila bead to the unit that's connecting to the 2nd Tila bead, we'll be going between those 2 units. Come over here, connect our Tila bead unit, which will be a Delica, Tila bead, Delica, and then the other unit, and make 2. And we'll just go back and forth, and each time we go to the other side, we'll be adding 2 right angle weave units. So let's go ahead, we'll do a few more, and then I'll let you guys off on your own. So let's go ahead and put on our 2 additional right angle weave units. So when we're looking at this, we're going in this direction here. So we need to get to this top bead. So we're just going to follow the thread path up to this bead here. So we're coming out of that bead. So go ahead, just go gentle. There we go. And we're now through the correct bead. So after we go through here, we're going to pick up, since we have our first unit of bead, we'll just need to pick up 3 each time now. So let's go ahead and pick up 3 more. 1, 2, 3. Move these out of the way. And let's go ahead and slide on 3. Whoops, I almost have a knot here. I thought I couldn't see there. There we go. I accidentally put my needle through, so it would have been an overhanded knot. Alright, so that's our first unit. Now we need to put on the second unit, and we need to be coming out of this bead here. So we're just going to work our way up. Alright, now we're coming out of the correct bead. We just have to put on our next unit, so we're going to add 3 more. There we go. There we go. Now we're coming, we got our last unit on. Now we're going to put on our next Tila unit. So we need to get down to this seed bead here. And so we're just going to go ahead, work our way down, following the thread path that's already there, not creating a new one. And we're going in the direction we want because we have to connect to the other side. Alright. Alright, so now that we got those 2 sides on, we're going to put on our second unit. And if you're trying to figure out what seed bead you need to be coming out of next to put on your next Tila bead, just keep in mind these units, you're going to have a Tila bead connected to it. So this one will have the first hole, this will have the second hole. So when you're looking at putting on your next Tila bead, it'll be the very whole unit, that the beginning of a unit that doesn't have a connection. So for our next Tila bead, and alright, let's put on our second unit, Tila unit. So we are going to pick up 1 Tila bead, pardon my language, 1 Delica, 1 Tila bead through the first hole, and then 1 Delica. Slide that on. Alright, and it's easy to figure out where we need to be on the other side. We just go through the very top bead of our last right angle weave unit on the other side. So go ahead and slide that on. There we go. Now before we connect the second hole, we are going to put on 2 right angle weaves on this side, And we'll just basically be doing that back and forth. So go ahead, pick up 3 more seed beads. And go through that top of that last right angle weave unit. Put on your first additional right angle weave unit. Now we need to make sure we're over here. So we're going to just go ahead, follow the thread path, and just think of the thread path as a road map. You don't want to go through your seed beads that you're not following the current thread path, because what will happen is your beads can go out of whack in the way they're supposed to align. All right, that's our first unit. So we're going to go ahead, pick up 3 more seed beads and create that second unit. There we go. This is just a little awkward just because I'm used to pulling things towards my body and the camera is in the way. Now we want to go ahead and connect the second hole. So we're going to go, whoops, let's just put that over there. Pick up 1 Delica, go through the second hole, pull your thread and needle, then pick up 1 Delica, and to determine what hole you want to go through the first seed bead that is connecting the right angle weave units that doesn't have a connection. So this here, whoops, let me just put my needle through, and as you can see, oops, here we go. And as you can see, we're going there. Let me just pull it through and then I'll show you. It'll be easier that way. Because then things will be back in alignment. Alright, so as you see, each connection of the right angle weave will have a connection to a Tila bead, either a first or second hole. And this was the first connection of the right angle weave units that did not have that connection. And right now it feels a little out of whack, but again, as we move along, it will just fall into place. So we're going to get ready for our third unit. So to do that, we need to put on 2 more right angle weaves on this side. And since we're coming out of here, and we want to be coming out of here to put on the next right angle weave unit, we're just going to follow our thread path and get our needle up to where we want it. There we go. And there we go. Alright, so let's go ahead and put on 2 additional right weave angles, also known as raw. There we go. And now that we got our first unit on, we need to be moving up to this seed bead and be coming out of here. So we're just going to follow our thread path till we get there. There we go. I just have to hold this a little funny just because of the camera. Alright, so now we'll go ahead and pick up 3 more seed beads. And go through, create our second unit on this side. Now we want to go back down and we want to be coming out of the unit, the first unit, facing towards the Tila beads that does not have a connection to a Tila unit. So we want to go through here. So we're going to just follow the thread path to get down there, one C bead at a time. There we go. And now we are down and we're ready to put on our third unit. Alright, so go ahead, pick up a Delica. Oops, pick up a Delica, a Tila, and a Delica. And then go through the very top of your next right angle weave unit. Ta-da! Alright, I'm sure you guys understand the process now, but I'm going to do 2 more units here just to be on the safe side to make it easier for you. So we'll finish up this unit and then we'll do 2 more. So again, on this side, we're going to do 2 right angle weave units again. I am coming out of the correct C beat, so I'm just going to go ahead and add my first right angle weave unit. And we know I'm going a little quicker now, but we know that's going to be 3 C beads. Then I'm just going to follow my thread path to get to, whoops, the C bead that I want. And again, that will be just so I can continue to go in that linear direction for the right angle weave. And I'm just going to go a little faster here, just because we've gone through this a few times now. There we go. See, I'm coming out of the top C bead that I want. Go ahead and add on my next 3 C beads for the first unit. Then, because I'm not coming out of the direction, the C bead I want, I need to move up to get to that C bead that I want to come out of. It's a little awkward on the camera, so bear with me. There we go. And there. So I'm now coming out of the top C bead. Go ahead and pick up 3 more. There we go. Now I want to connect the second hole of the third unit, Tila bead unit. So I want to, this is the first connection unit of the right angle weaves that does not have a Tila connection, so I want to get down to here. So I'm just going to go 1 C bead at a time and follow the thread path. Make sure I'm coming out of the correct bead and heading in the correct direction. So my thread's coming out of the correct direction. I'm out of the correct hole, C bead. So now I can just go ahead, pick up a Delica, go through the second hole of the Tila bead. Connect that unit, then pick up 1 more Delica and go through on the right angle weave on the other side, the first right angle weave connection that does not have a connection to a Tila bead, so that would be down here. Now to put on my fourth unit, I need to make 2 right angle weaves going up. Alright, now before I can make my fourth Tila bead connection, I'm going to make 2 more right angle weaves on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up 3 seed bead. Oops, I skipped. I need to be coming out of the correct seed bead. So I'm just going to follow my thread path and move up. There we go, coming out of the correct seed bead, picking up 3 seed beads. There we go. Made my first unit. Now I need to go up, so I'm coming out of the correct seed bead again for the second unit. Oops, I just gotta remember to stay in the camera focus. Sorry about that. There we go. Alright. Now I'm coming out of the correct seed bead. And for the second unit, just picking up 3 seed beads. There we go, second unit's on. Now to go ahead and connect up the next, the fourth unit. So I need to go down to the first connection that doesn't have a connection to a Tila unit. So I'm just going to follow the thread path. There we go. So now I can pick up a Delica, a Tila bead. I always like the first whole connection. You can just do the whole unit at once. And then a Delica. Slide that down. Connect to your other side. I think I may have made a right angle weave extra. Not the end of the world if you do. Alright. Now I can go ahead and add 2 units over to the other side. Right angle weave units. And the reason why I'm not just simply connecting here is that you always want to be a couple of right angle weaves ahead. And if you accidentally make 3 versus 2, it's not the end of the world. It just keeps you ahead, that's all. It makes it a little easier. There we go. Alright. And I'm picking up 3 more. Technically you could do your right angle weaves all each side and then just add the Tila beads afterwards. But I kind of like going back and forth because you'll get the reinforcement naturally that way. it's easier to determine your length too by just doing it that way too. But you could do the other. Alright, so that's 1 unit. And then 2 units. And then look for where it should be coming out. Following the thread path to get to that bead. So here's the first right angle weave unit. There's no connection, so I'm going to go ahead and slide that through. And we're actually connecting the second hole. So after I get done with that, I'm just picking up a Delica, going through the second hole, picking up another Delica, and then looking for that first unit without a connection and connecting it there. There we go. So let's just take a look and see what we have so far. See? Alright, I'll do one more and then I'll let you guys go and let you finish up on your own. And you can make the second half of the band the same way. Alright, so let's just go up here and get to the thread path that we want. Pick up the beads, 3 beads. Make the first unit. Get up to the spot where I want to put on the second unit. Oops, sorry about that. It's really hard to see with this camera in front of me. Alright, now I'm going to pick up 3 more. And this is my second unit. So then I will put on the 5th Tila bead after this. So now I'm going to work my way down, 1 bead at a time. Oops, let me go back because I was out of... It's getting a little awkward to do this with the camera. Alright, so now I'm going to just work my way down. There we go, and I just got 1 more bead to go. And then I'll be in the correct path. Voila. So, Delica. Oops, let's get a Tila bead over here. There we go, Tila, Delica. Go through the first unit that has no connection onto the other side. Connecting, then working my way up so I can make 2 right angle weave units, always adding at least 2 or more units at a time. Oops. Gotta fix that. There we go. Now I'm coming out of the right hole, so I'll go ahead and put on my first right angle weave unit. work my way up, so I'm coming out of the correct hole to put on the second unit. There we go. All right, putting on the second unit. Nice. Now I'll go down and go to the section that does the beginning of the unit that does not have a connection to a Tila bead, so I can connect the second hole. There we go. Pick up Delica, connect the second hole of the Tila bead, go through, and pick up one more Delica, go through the connection on the other side that doesn't have a Tila bead connection, the first unit, and voila. Alright, so just a gentle reminder, if you're going to be adding the Rivoli, we need 2 bands, so you're going to do half the size you would do for your wrist. Let me just get the bracelet out in front of us. There we go. So this is what we're doing. We'll have 2 band lengths on each side if you're connecting the Rivoli. Keep a little extra room so we can add beads later on. So I would do it so that you maybe need to add 1 or 2 Tila bead units on each side. So stop like about here or here, depending, and then just you can figure out the length by keeping in mind you gotta, when you're thinking of the length, you gotta remember you're doing 2 of these. You got the Rivoli in the center, and then also you got your clasp and jump ring or split ring as well to take configuration. So that's why I say it's easier to leave a little short, because then we can measure it around our wrist and then determine from there how long you want to make it. It makes it a little bit easier. So I have a fairly fat wrist, so mine is fairly long, and my wrist is about 7 inches, but depending on how long you want, just leave like enough room where you could possibly add 1 or 2 Tila beads more. It's fairly simple to add on after we attach the Rivoli, which will make it so much easier to measure as we go along, and that's why I'm suggesting it. So keep going until you got your first band width, then just repeat this process to make your second, I said band width, I meant band length, the other half, and then meet me back here and we'll attach the Rivoli and then do our embellishment, and then we'll, it'll be easier to test the length of what you need, and then I'll show you how to do and add the clasp. All right, see you in a few moments.